listening to the Law Enforcement Pirate Radio Network. Radio Free Larry presiding.
You can run, but you can't hide.
Radio Free Larry.
All right. Here we go again. Buckle up. Rough roads ahead. So it isn't an option. It's not an option. You messed and it's messed. You must love your neighbor as yourself or somewhere in the ballpark. I'm going to adjust this very nice pop filter windscreen. It's warm audio. They have a sub brand called, I think, 512 or 512 audio, and they have very nice pop filters. I purchased it about half price. That was very nice of them. Somebody complained about it. The top part is kind of light, but it's really nice. It's a very nice pop filter. You can see your mic well through it. It's large enough for my medium sized, I guess, or medium large sized mic here, my Octava ML52. Some of the other mics are real big. I had those before. The Golden Age project ribbons can be real tall. They're almost they're probably almost twice the price. Twice the size of this, not twice the price. I got a good deal on these. I bought them from Germany. I thought it was dead until I tightened it up, and then it seemed to work. I think they use military technology, so they should be a little bit stronger than your average mic, a ribbon mic. They're very delicate. And I thought that was it for my microphone. I was very careful with it. However, I moved around a lot, so I figured maybe it was damaged. However, I spoke on it before. The Bible, in its reality, not what people are playing each other with, what it really means, is a great, and again, it's in depth. You can have 50 meanings for one thing, but it's got to be an honest meaning. You can't play people with it like we see happening today. It's a great document, and it will tell you things to make life easier for all involved. Now, the people that are wealthy today really don't care because they feel uber protected. The more money they have, the more protection they have, and they feel like, bigger than God. So they don't really succeed when you love your neighbor. They want you polarized. And it's happening in your community. It's happening online. Many of you don't realize that you're being played. And it isn't only Republicans. It isn't only Democrats. It's everywhere where it is. Again, it's not everybody. Today I had an allergy attack. I was like, what's going on? I was like, oh, wait a minute. I stopped my allergy medicine and I turned my air purifiers off. So again, maybe I could have stopped my allergy medicine, but not turning the air purifiers off and only turning them on a little. Again, that's their mind projecting into my life a curse, a hate. And that causes it to go in the wrong direction. And I really do love this pop filter. It works great. It looks great. And I was hoping I could see my microphone better through this one. And I really like it because I can. It seems to be perfect size. So I'll have to do a review. a lot of psychic information coming in. I'm not sharing it all. I want to share this one though. Suicides. I don't know if they're being quiet about suicides or not. Because what will happen is if I identify a deep state, a secret society reason for suicides, they might try to hush them up. Because they used to fear people with them. You know, here's another suicide. You better do what we say or we'll move you to it. So when you confront them and say, okay, you're doing that, then sometimes they hush it up. So on suicides, please heal them. They're here. And it is a possession, a projected spell, a curse. And it doesn't have to be a direct. Republicans have been known to curse liberals for the simple fact that they're liberals. And some Democrats have done the same thing to conservatives. Although at this point, this stage of the game, we can see the haters moved into the Republican Party and took it over to a greater degree. However, nothing great about it. So it's just a bizarre world, isn't it? But I told you years ago, the Jews need not be so involved in a lot of this polarization and these political moves, because what's happening is they're going to put us in the ovens and you're going to help them. And the same thing happened in Nazi Germany to a certain degree. Now, what is the ovens are, whatever they are. Again, remember, Jews were in the ghettos, the locked ghettos on and off throughout the centuries prior to Nazi Germany. That was simply the culmination of that hate over the centuries. That was the great Grand Duchy of Lithuania was one of them. There were others that protected the Jews. And that's why a lot of us were from Lithuania. From what I can tell, that's where a lot of the magic Jews came from. I'm not telling you we were wealthy, but we sure have a lot of power. And that's God's power, of course. So this white supremacist, it's funny to watch them manipulate the narrative, this Fuentes. Apparently, they want us to believe that he's possibly just a Hollywood type, a Hollywood actor playing a supremacist. You see that fraud, that scam, that, hey, go back to sleep, don't worry, this is all just play. He's just playing. It's political play. You know what? If he is, it doesn't matter. Why? Because there's people in Georgia right now, in Large Marge Green's district, that are listening to him and laughing, and they're cleaning their rifles, they're checking on their storage of their field expedient demolitions and their explosives and all of that to make sure it's still up and ready to go for the revolution, for the Civil War, whatever it is they believe is going to happen. So it does matter what he's saying. Have to watch with a ribbon mic. I can't oracle under my breath. It comes up real loud. Oh, what's going on right now is Satan wants people not to believe the inside exists. He'll do this time flip thing where you'll hear from the future and you'll say, oh no, I didn't. Let's say I'm posting something or tweeting something and I hear responses from people as soon as I tweet it. I'm actually supposed to hear their responses while I'm writing it, and I will sometimes, because that's a gift of being an author. You can hear how people receive your book. I don't know if Stephen King has that ability, but that's one of the gifts of God, that God can help you hear people. And if you don't have it, it's not because God doesn't want you to have it, it's because they won't let you have it. Although if you're one of those people that are metaphysically and physically and socially and psychologically oppressing other people, then you made your own problems at that point. So what'll happen is you'll click the button and it takes what? Like I have Blue, I have that Twitter Blue. It takes like 25 seconds or something for it to post, and they'll start responding back at me, and then Satan will go, okay, look, it didn't even tweet. I'm like, well, okay, but I heard from the future. That's all. I've heard from the future many times. I even hear from the present and the past. So again, what's going to happen in your mind when you start believing? Remember, believing is very important. When I was in Baltimore, before I left, they had this believe thing. I even put one of the bumper stickers on our seized vehicle. I was driving around in a seized Volkswagen Bug, and that was a setup. I don't know if anybody knew what they actually did when they did that. It was a setup. What happened is, when I got in that vehicle, they had somebody in an SUV. I spoke about that person that chased me down to the airport right after 9/11 while we were working down at the airport. So they didn't want me to have the Crown Vic with the lights for that specific reason. So what it was is a lot of the things I was doing was scaring the people that killed Jonathan Luna in whatever way they killed him, whether it's psychological, physical, is neither here nor there. So they tried to adjust my life because God was protecting me with certain things. I ended up being late for 9/11 work, and I hit the code and run down to the airport. Nothing was working. It was the bizarrest thing in the world. I didn't know initially that it was that. And then finally I figured it out that it was a combination of two things, spycraft and witchcraft. I'm telling you right now, if you're a victim and they want you to be fired from your job, they will cause a traffic jam. I will tell you right now, they will do that. They will stop dead in the middle of a highway like 83 and cause a traffic jam. That's how protected they are. But when they spell you, nothing works. When they're up with the evil. I don't know if Bush was part of that back then, but when he took office, there was a lot of evil that did pick up, but it could have been something localized to Maryland. I don't know. So again, it could be that Republicans were up, the underlings, and they were moving it. Because I've had things move past the head. Supposedly Bush didn't know what was happening, and he himself says, I never authorized anything to be used at that level against you in your particular case. Although I did authorize some things, I would not have authorized it against you. Well, whatever it is, it happened. It destroyed my life. God rebuilt it, and they did it again. It appeared around 2005 is when Bush started waking up. And by 2007, they were hating on him. And then that destroyed the economy and all that. Somebody came up to me in a was an Italian restaurant, and then in Naples, and on Fridays it was like a club or something. And I was there. Nobody was really there. It was like early before the night would start. And a guy walked up next to me. Looked like military, maybe law enforcement. And he started speaking poorly about George Bush. And I said, well, I had a problem with him earlier in his administration. I had a lot of trouble in my life. And as a president, I think him and Cheney messed up. I mean, they owe me. And I didn't exactly say that, but they owed me. And I got fried under their administration. Just about killed me. They were drugging me and everything else. So he tried to convince me that George Bush was messed up. I said, no, he appears to be doing okay right now. So I have no idea what his goals were in speaking to me. But he wasn't happy that I accepted George Bush. and my battle against George Bush was over. And again, God at a certain point probably said, "Your life's back up a little. Let's move forward." Did I say 2000? It was. I guess it was about 2006 or seven when that happened. I imagine. Well, maybe even later. I don't know. I can't remember. But George Bush was still in office, if I remember correctly. So I don't remember how the dates all went. I mean, because they're operating me the whole time. It's like a whole different world. Remember, they're working shift work, and they're bringing in operators in and out. You're stuck in it 24/7, and there's no turning it off because they're devils, demons, antichrists, witches, and saucers, and criminal spycraft operators that will murder, that will disable some of the greatest Americans that have ever existed in this nation so that they have no life, liberty, or happiness if they can get it there. And that's the sum and summation of this nation. The rest doesn't count. The rest is a cover story. And no, Trump's not with me, and Trump's not saying the same thing. There's no billionaire in the world that's a victim. I'll tell you that right now. All Trump had to do was act normal like everyone else. As far as shutting him up as far as what? As committing crimes. He needs to stop committing crimes. The problem is those whistleblowers for the Republican Party are actually Trump operatives. And when they found out that certain people were being investigated, they all of a sudden became a whistleblower to let their daddies know that, hey, they're being mean to me. That's all that's about. They were the psychological operators and murderers under the Trump administration. And no, it's not the thin blue line. They kill cops. And former state senators. And U.S. senators. One of the things they did with Malcolm X was something similar to that. It says there, if you're not careful, the newspapers will have you hating the people who are being oppressed and loving the people who are doing the oppressing. Malcolm X. Who's the newspapers? The spycraft operators. He saw it. And so he's showing you I see it. So one thing they did to him was they infiltrated the organization that he was fighting with, that he used to be part of. What happened was he went overseas and in an Islamic way got saved and began waking up and renouncing violence. They didn't want that. That's dangerous to the CIA, the NSA, whoever was involved in it, the FBI, the hater part of that. So they wanted him dead at that point. So what they did is they created a scenario where they would kill him. And they used spycraft techniques to bring that to fruition. And of course, also with that spycraft is witchcraft. So again, remember, when it comes to Roe versus Wade, as Christians, you don't really have a horse in that race or a race in that horse. But what should you do? Not grow weary in well-doing. So go back to the fact that we now are exactly where we started from, and maybe worse in some ways. and go back to what I told you to do and just keep going. And just keep, the problem is you align yourself with pro-life. And that kind of kills God's ability to operate because you've aligned yourself with a fleshly law. So what I would do is I would pull yourselves out of that mess. You could kind of mea culpa, whatever it is, and say, that doesn't work. For the gospel's sake, I would do that. But what we're going to do is we're going to go back to our original concept, and we're going to take care of people. We're going to be here for anybody that wants to birth a child. We're going to offer counseling to anybody that wants to birth a child. And if you stick with us, we'll work funding to help raise your children if you meet certain criteria. And that's where you should be. Instead of paying lawyers, you're paying lawyers. And you're paying crooked preachers. So get back to the fact that you want to pray, you want to heal people, you want to create birthing centers, and move yourself center of the road. Because there's going to come a point where that's going to become law. Not your side of it. Roe versus Wade will become law at a certain point. It almost happened this time, but there was a lot of gerrymandering that went on. And who knows, Republicans may have cheated. This idea where Republicans won't cheat or wouldn't cheat is BS. If you do a psychological profile on Republicans versus Democrats, you will find that Republicans are more likely to cheat. They believe that they are above the law in taxes, in manipulating activity against government officials of a spycraft nature. Again, do you know what Project Veritas is? And it's funny they call it a project. I don't know if they did that to try to just yank my chain, because I've been speaking about Project Artichoke for quite a long time. But they are a private sector CIA. And what they tell you they're doing isn't always what they're doing, but what they're doing. And God says this is where we are. And Pharaoh hardened his heart, and at this time also neither would he let the people go. So that's a collective spiritual Pharaoh, if you don't know how I've been presenting that. That's a big one today. Galatians 4:16. Am I therefore become your enemy because I tell you the truth? That's everywhere. They love the lies. They love the falsehoods. So apparently there's some prophets and preachers and evangelists doing an about face, but I don't believe it. I believe they might be the spycraft operators, simply taking their commands from the beast spycraft machine. Because I told you before that the nationalist Christian is just a title. There's so many other types of Christians that are doing something very similar. Spycraft and witchcraft. So again, be focused, because you know your adversary is out there prowling, and most likely is sitting in your pew and standing in your pulpit. But always do not grow weary in well-doing. No matter how many times I attack the beast for the beast's activity on earth, I still am out there when I go outside healing people. And I'm also instructing Whoever can see my Twitter page, uh, I'm instructing them on what to heal and how to heal it as I can. In fact, this probably applies. If you can't fly, then run. If you can't run, then walk. If you can't walk, then crawl. But by all means, keep moving. So, what I would do is focus on things for the gospel's sake. What it tells you to do is what Jesus told you to do, but it outlines a little bit more. Jesus told you you must be like a little one, a humble being, like a child. Very difficult today. However, we should be focused like a child on others. Well, that's one of the problems we have today is children are not being taught to be careful, and they get themselves into a lot of trouble. However, spiritually, and in furthering the gospel, it's a little less dangerous. Again, what you see the Republican and the conservative Christians doing is not being that little one. I mean, Lauren Boebert pretty much railed against being that little one, as being naive and stupid because they got the law forward. They built that tower to heaven. It's just working great for them, isn't it? So the idea is just let people live their lives and trust God. You know, if you're out there all day worrying that gay marriage or somebody drinking alcohol is going to destroy your life, then you probably have very little faith and very little ability to harness the power to make sure it doesn't destroy your life and everyone else's life, even as it exists around you. I did well over the years surviving. Yes, I'm disabled, but I'm not dead yet. I imagine that will happen earlier than it should have, based upon what these criminals and devils have done from government, from private sector, from religions, etc. But they'll pay in hell. That's what it's for. It's not for somebody that's just basically gay. It says things about not inheriting the earth or the kingdom of God, or will not read it. If you take it all together, if you actually read the Bible and take it all together, nobody's doing anything. So what do you have to do? You just have faith and believe. The rest is nonsense. Because the Bible will cancel out other parts of the Bible. When Jesus came, there was a big canceled stamp. Because God had brought several things to the earth within religion for salvation and other things. And Jesus came and said, look, you're in charge of this stuff, and now you're messing it up for everyone else. You're not entering in. You won't let them enter in. The same thing's happening today. And it isn't only the Republicans, but they're the loudest today. They're the most obvious beast followers. Because remember, the beast would have a Christianity, and that Christianity would be called the synagogue of Satan. Let's click that on real quick. The revelation continues. We are in the revelationary time period. Right now, you should pray for the salvation of Elon Musk. Now, if you're one of these Christian nationalists or something similar to that, you don't have power to pray for Elon Musk. You have power to bring Satan to control his mind into idiocy, which is pretty much happening. Now, he's very wealthy, and he has a plan, and something might work for him because he's very lucky. But he did lose 55 billion, so I have no idea why he's playing with fire. However, I believe he's at that point where Donald Trump was a few years ago. He has to make a decision whether he wants to take the mark of the beast, or does he want to continue on and become somebody that does not grow weary in well doing. One of the things you'll notice, there'll be a hardship in their life before the beast comes in. Now, I want to bring up something. I told you years ago I was witnessing with one of my brothers in Christ, and we went to a small apartment complex in Pennsylvania. And there was a retired cop in there. And the bottoms of his legs were purple and all that. And I know that's some sort of illness. I don't know if it's diabetic or whatever it is. I've seen it on a couple people. So I know he wasn't well, and he let us in, and I thank him for that. And I just told him, he told me, I can't anymore. I can't believe in God. And, I hope he was being honest, but he said his partner, I think in the 60s or 70s or something like that, was in their vehicle and there was a bomb placed in it. And I guess the mob blew him up. And, I could tell now, I didn't know then, he's being victimized by the deep state. That's why I was sitting alone in that apartment. But I told them, don't blame it on God. It's not God. If God could do it, I didn't have all the answers like I do today. But I told them, if God could do it, you would have a better life. That wouldn't have happened. Now, I didn't have the scripture to say, this is not the Father's kingdom. Look, Jesus was crucified. And from what I'm hearing, they're together in heaven today, him and his partner. So again, see, it works out. And what I wanted to say is just that. God will not hold it against that individual. He isn't somebody that I saw was culpable for not believing. Now, the brother that I was with, he always spoke well. I wasn't as able to speak as he was. I always tried, but I was asleep, so it was very difficult. Once I woke up, I talked my head off. I never shut up. However, he couldn't say a word. He didn't know what to say. It was visitation. We were out on our own private visitation. I don't think we weren't affiliated with the church. We were just going to go out and knock on doors. And that's what the government destroyed. That was my life. I mean, I was going to go. I mean, then I was still working, but I was going to retire, and that was the life I was going to have. But the church was with the government. And again, the Bible speaks about it. I know these aren't the liberal churches, and no, they're not. No, they're not the liberal churches, or they're not are the liberal churches. Whatever it is, it's what it is. It is what it is. It is where it is, and it's probably in every type of church that it could be in. So again, what you're all doing is making fools of yourselves, because the people that are found innocent by the nature of being spiritually blind are the ones you're all blaming, the ones you did not heal, the ones you pushed away with flank and shoulder. When somebody's starving, the government's giving them the SNAP program, and you as a Republican, you as a Christian, push them away from that program, you're pushing them away. You're being real sneaky about it, the way Satan is sneaky. You all got into stuff that was just crazy. The idea is this: we don't want fraud, waste, and abuse. And that's how we, as Christians, monitor those programs, because that is something that is antichrist. To waste money that we would be giving to the good people that are here in such downtrodden circumstances. Remember, they are why we are here. Every one of those people that is having trouble finding food for their table is why Jesus has us here. Now you'll say, well, I go to my church, but you know what? If you destroy the way they are fed from the government, your church isn't going to be able to get to the people that are out there and are not getting to those people. So, they speak about advising the government. Lauren Boebert is one of the people that votes against those programs all the time. So she's not advising the government for God. She's advising the government for the thing she calls God, and people like her call God, and that is Satan. I started this telling you years ago that they're calling Satan Jesus, and they're calling Satan God. So what I'm doing, and what I've been doing, is I'm filling in the blanks in the Bible. The missing information, I'm connecting the dots. How would they appear as angels of light and ministers of righteousness? Because they would turn the words of Jesus on its head. They would upside down it. Again, the Bible tells us they would call evil good and good evil. So when I found out, I'm sure God couldn't wait to tell me, because I had all these questions as a sleep guy walking around. Why is that happening? How is that happening? I'm like, why are black people with guns all the time? What's going on there? I was like, is this genetics or something? And I didn't mean that as a bad person. I'm thinking, because at that point I knew if your testosterone was higher, that you might be a little more aggressive. So naturally, really, if you look, a lot of black people have a better physique, and that denotes a higher testosterone level. But when I got to the answer, you know what happens from that? You become an antenna. I just saw something the other day, so that was foreshadowing. God knew I was going to say this. I don't know if you looked on Twitter. There's a dog, and he barks, and there's a bunch of big caterpillars. And every time he barks, they pick their head up, and they jerk their head about 2 inches. And then they go back to eating whatever they're eating, and then the dog barks again, and they respond. So what's happening is all these curses, when your hormones are up higher, you're receiving them. Now, you'll also receive the blessing better, too, if that blessing is there for you to experience. And again, we can bless one another. People are cursing you instead of blessing you and healing you. They could do that. They know they can. They just won't do it. People on earth can heal you. Every being has the intrinsic ability, and the more money you have on earth, the easier it is for you to do that. So I had a lot of questions as to why it was happening, because number one, the African American people, the black people, are cursed at a higher rate than other people. Why? Because Kanye's right. More white people have money than black people. But most black people have realized that Kanye is not there to help them. He's there to serve himself of the others. And it's a shame. We tried to pull him back in. He doesn't want to hear it. That's his business. I think the mental illness is a crutch to a certain degree. I do believe he has issues, but I think he's being selfish, and he's projecting who he is and saying everybody else is that way because he's not as rich as the others or not in control as much as the others. I mean, when you have business deals, you have business deals, and you have to toe that line. And of course, he feels that he should have had more money. I think Shaq even said it. You got more money than I do. So again, there's a lot of sadness that he moved in that direction.